Hi there. Welcome once again to our weekly open house. I would like to ask you to wait 1 minute just for to be sure that everybody can join. So we will return in 1 minute. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's start today's session. I'd like to welcome you all again. Thank you very much for taking the time to be here and to get to know a little bit more about DocDigitizer. I'm seeing some familiar faces, people that are attending from every week. Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to have you here all during all these sessions. Today, besides me, I will have the help of Claudia Mateus that will help us with your questions and to make sure that all of the questions are properly answered uh, during the session or in the email follow-up. I would like to start by inviting you to join our YouTube channel, DocDigitizer at YouTube. You will see there that there are already the video playbacks from all the previous sessions. And it's a really nice resource if you want to, and if you are curious to know what was discussed during the past sessions. And also don't forget to register to for the next open session next week. And you very easily it's very easy to register. Just go to livestorm slash docdigitizer and register. um, Before we start, and this is something that I this is a slide that I show in every open session. I strongly invite you to test DocDigitizers because I will present a lot of things that are very different from what you know, and they may seem too good to be true. And this is a comment that we hear a lot. So I would like to open the possibility for you to test and go beyond a very nice PowerPoint or a very nice demo and test with your own documents, with your own invoices. So we open a mailbox that is extract@digitizer.com. And this mailbox allows you to send any type of invoice, photo, PDF, multi-page invoice, and get back as a response for that email the JSON, the data of the others and the line items. Okay, so this is a very easy way without any code, any complexity, technical complexity, to allow you to test. Okay, so please use and abuse this. It's unlimited, and try your best. And send us the most difficult invoices and have a look at the results. Don't forget, extract@docdigitize.com. Claudia, if you want, can you share this mailbox in the chat, please, just for the sake of having the mailbox always available. So today we will discuss what is intelligence document processing. For the ones that already saw our previous sessions, this will be a recap. Also explain you what is DocDigitizer, how it works, and what are the most suitable use cases to apply DocDigitizer. And then for today, I will have an API demo and taking in consideration a lot of comments made during the previous sessions. I will try to avoid using invoices, okay? Because people always say to me, "Oh, João, you are always showing invoices, invoices, invoices. Does DocDigitizer process any other types of documents?" So today, finally, I will show you a couple examples from the very standard ones to the most complex ones. Okay, so stay tuned. And then, as usual, a Q&A the participation of Claudia. So what is intelligence document processing in a nutshell? Besides being one of the most trending topics in automation nowadays, it accounts for 1.2 billion in dollars in market size in 2020, and it's growing a lot. It's essentially a next generation of OCR tools. You probably are familiar with OCR, and OCRs are in the market for quite some time. They are used mostly to digitize documents to make sure that we have digital inputs and digital formats as an input to our processes. But intelligence document processing tries to move this field into a new era, an era where most of the data that we exchange is unstructured, where the information is becoming more and more unstructured, more and more varied, more and more unpredictable, and therefore the standard tools of designing templates and having all the information about the layouts of the documents beforehand, it's really losing traction because this kind of approach is not suitable for the kind of document inbounds that we have nowadays. And that is the reason why these new fields appeared, and it's a huge trend, in particular when it comes to the integration of intelligence document processing and RPA. Okay, so RPA, as you know, is growing a lot. And one of the handicaps that RPA is facing is the capability to deal with unstructured process. And that is where you start to hear about cognitive automation, intelligence automation, hyper automation. All of these terms are related with the integration of RPA with this kind of tools, cognitive tools, such as intelligence document processing. Okay, so in a nutshell, IDP offers a value proposition that allows companies to parse through a wide range of unstructured inbounds and convert it into structured data. When we look at the cost of implementing IDP, we tend to focus a lot on choosing the best tool. And choosing the best tool relates to the licensing model of that particular tool. What is the price that I have to pay to get access to a tool? Okay, and there are a lot of tools in the market. Most of them have a licensing model based on the cost per page. So it's very used to. I'm very used to hear our customers ask us, okay, in DocDigitizer, how much I will pay per page. Okay, so this is the first set of costs associated with IDP licensing. Okay, then on top, and that roughly accounts for 15% of the total costs of ownership. 25% goes to all the setup and model training that I need to do to have the IDP tool ready to be deployable. This means collecting data sets. This means evaluating the amount of templates. This means in some cases, training the models, correcting the models, assessing if the model is suitable or not, how is the accuracy, how can I use some kind of data to cross-check and detect errors. So this accounts to 25%, and typically these are man hours, consultancy hours that you need to pay in the beginning, but also throughout the implementation to be sure that the model still fits your inbound. Finally, 60% accounts for the data validation process. And this is often very neglected in terms of costs because it's not directly associated with the tool. And most of the cases, it's not a cost that you buy from a third party. This is a cost that you have in-house. You need to build up your data validation teams to be sure that the data that the model is getting back from your documents is correct. Okay, and this is essentially correcting the wrong information, but also making sure that the correct information is correct. And this accounts for 60% of the cost and is in fact one of the major bottlenecks when implementing IDP. So why am I breaking down the costs like this? Because it's important to understand that these cost drivers are related with the handicaps that you find currently on most of the solutions available in the market. Okay, and DocDigitizer was created with the aim of simplifying these complexities, making intelligence document processing easy. Okay, so this means in practice that we want to provide an IDP layer, an IDP API that is able to get data out of your documents across any document, any format, any language, any layout, with no setup, so with no entry cost, with no need to develop data sets, to train the model, to assess the model, on one hand. On the other hand, to provide you only accurate data, data that is accurate enough so you can skip your costly data validation process. So instead of building up your own validation team, DocDigitizer ensures you that the data is correct, and therefore you don't need that team. And finally, a price per usage, per document, okay, which is much more simpler to understand, more easy to calculate your return on investment, and also removes the hidden costs of having a part that is licensing, then a part that is setup, then a part that is your internal costs. And in a nutshell, this is what the DocDigitizer offers, and these are our differentiation points. Just a quick reference, we are featuring most of the Gartner and Forrester IDP reports, but more than that, in G2 Crowd and Capterra, you'll find a set of testimonials of our customers detailing their experience with us, and this is very, very valuable for us. And so feel free to go there and see by yourself. So as I mentioned, most of the people say, okay, there must be any catch here. It's too good to be true. Okay, so I hate to disappoint you, but it's not magic. It's in fact the way we built our approach to the data extraction problem. So we combine artificial intelligence with a human in the loop that is orchestrated by AI with a set of tools that are very common in document processing, such as OCRs and other tools. And the combination of these three layers, let's say, allow us to offer the service of data extraction in an easy way. And this doesn't mean that the problem is easy. The problem is, in fact, very complex. What we are doing is absorbing and making sure that all those complexities are handled internally by DocDigitizer, and they don't pass to our customers. So we, using AI and our human in the loop, we ensure that we do the training on the fly. Okay, so instead of having 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month in training, we will do the training on the fly, and at the same time we will be correcting the data. And this means that our human in the loop is training the model and at the same time acting as a firewall, a quality firewall for the data that we streamline to the customers. And using this approach, we are able to cope with very diverse inbounds, very unpredictable inbounds, and at the same time assuring that all the data is 100% accurate, independent if the document is very standard or if it is the first time that we saw that particular document. This also removes the need for having delays on the implementation. So we are able to make and open a DocDigitizer subscription under a few minutes, okay? And this means that you can start right away inbounding documents and getting back data without spending time in setup. So if you look at this from a process point of view, what we are trying to do here is to remove all these several steps that you have on an OCR or on an IDP solution, traditional IDP solution, and make it much more simple. You have an API, you define your data schemas, you inbound documents, and you integrate data that is already verified and 100% accurate. Okay, and of course, this allows you to be much more focused on your business rather than focus on setting up and configuring and training your solution. Um, and before the demo, let me just point out that besides of this power capture offering that we have, that is essentially extracting 100% accurate data from documents, we also make available other layers that might be relevant for your particular use case. We also do fraud analysis on the documents that we process, making sure that we are able to provide you fraud controls, which is very important, for example, for banks. And we talked about this last week on QYC Automation Open House, and also our semantic platform that is called World Objects, that allow you to standardize, augment information, verify information, and making sure that the data that is streamlined is not really the data that is on the document, is the data that is on the document, but in a standardized format, which makes the integration and the data management much more easy. If you are curious about knowing more on these several layers, contact us and we can book a demo and a meeting to detail this a little bit more. Okay. So now let's jump directly to the demos. Let me just switch my screen. Okay, so for today's demo, and since you asked me not to use invoices, I picked here a couple of ID cards, a couple of payslips, a couple of passports, and then finally, very strange and hard things to process, like receipts and writing, this kind of photos with this kind of watermarks, and also multi-page invoices with a lot of data. So these are the most complex use cases. So I will go from the most simplest one to the more complex one. So using Postman, this is basically our API. Our API allow you to authenticate through an API key. Is a JSON RESTful API that has essentially two endpoints. One, to submit a document, and let's grab here. Let me submit this one here. That is the hard one with the handwriting. And once you submit your document, you will get back a message that states that the transaction was accepted, and you have in the others, you have here the document ID. Okay, and I will just copy paste this into my note. Okay, and I'll put here, and this basically is telling you that the transaction was accepted. It's important to mention that our API is asynchronous, because there's no way in the world that you can have 100% accuracy in real time. So this means that you will have to have a verification in some cases, which means that the response will not be synchronous. So you can have two ways of querying back the results. Either you pass here a callback, that is a web service that we will post there the once the information is ready, or you can use this document ID to get back the results. Okay, I will pick here some of the cases just for you to see the results. So this is the endpoint where you get the results, and let me put here side by side with the document. Okay, for the sake of being transparent, all these documents were documents that I found in Google, so there's no security or privacy issue here. If you search in Google, probably you find the same documents. And in this case, you see that the response has a lot of different other information, but the most important part is the data part of the JSON, where you'll find the birth date, the nationality, the document number, the name and surname, the expiry date, the gender. Okay, so these are the information that you are seeing here. It's important to notice that you see here that there are already standardizations and format conversions, which means that we don't return the data as a string as it is written on the document. We return it in a canonical format, which makes much more sense because probably different ID cards may have different formats for dates, and you don't want to handle that in the integration part. So we do this kind of conversion to make it more simple and more easy for you to handle this. Let's pick another example. And in this case, you see here that you start to have watermark overlaps, so things become more difficult to read, even for a human. And I will query this document ID. And once again, you have a lot of fields and data information, but please focus on the data part of the JSON. And once again, you see here that the data was accurately extracted, although you see here that the gender and the labels and the format changed and is not equal to the last one. Just to be also transparent, we did not train this in any way before submitting this document. Okay, so these are the most straightforward because it's a card. It's very similar, even though you may change your country. It's a European ID card, so they will be mostly the same. And now let's jump to things that start to become more and more difficult. This is a payslip, okay? And let me pick here the ID of this one. And let's submit this. Okay, so now you have another data schema and another set of fields. And this is very important. Depending on the type of document that is activated on your subscription, you will have access to different fields, to different data schemas. Processing an ID card will be completely different from processing a payslip or an invoice. This data schema is defined when you are creating your own subscription. Okay, so there's no need to training, there's no need to set up, but you need to define which fields you want to get out of the document. Okay, and as you see here, once again, the datas are standardized, the amounts are decimals, which also is very good because you see here that there are different ways of representing numbers. And you see here that for some reason, there are empty fields. And you may say, okay, so this is an error? No, they simply are not present in the document. We are talking about employer tax ID. And as you see here, the invoice number does not contain that information. The payslip does not contain that information. So it's impossible to return a data schema or a field where is not present on the document. Okay, and that is the reason why it's empty. So it's empty not because it fails, but because it's not present on the document. Okay. Now let me show you something that is very strange. You see here, this is a payslip, but you cannot read it because it's very, very, very small. And for those cases, we return what we call a rejection. And you see here that this document was rejected and the document class is unknown. What this means in practice is that you submitted a document that could not be processed because it's unreadable, even for humans. Even for our human in the loop, they are not able to read this. So therefore, the document and the transaction was rejected. Okay. Now let's pick here this kind of photo, which has a lot of noise. And I'm picking this up and not this one, because as you can imagine, this would be very simple. This starts to become more difficult because you have overlays, you have the quality itself. So let me open this one. I think it's the 7, and show you again the results. Okay, so in this case, this is a passport, and once again, the data schema will be completely different. And once again, you get all the data, and it's correct. Okay, it's 100% correct. Okay, even though this is a photo and there might be this kind of overlaps. So now let's go to the more difficult ones. Okay, so I've shown you the payslips that are already quite demanding and challenging. Passports and ID cards, let's assume that they are very standard. But now let's go to this kind of photo with perspective blurs, watermarks, and see how this behaves. So this is 9. Let me just click here. The 9. Okay, so the data schema for invoices is quite different from the ones that you saw before. And the reason why it's different is because it has line items. It has arrays of data within the same document. Okay, so let's go through some of the fields. 4952, issue date. Issue date. Where is the issue date? Is here. Okay. Uh, then you have the line items. Most of these data, as you see here, is not present on the document. So we don't have the information to fill up these fields, although they are present. But we have for the quantity, that is 1. For the base total amount, that is 895. And for the description that you see here, and you see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 line items. You see here that the document identifier is this one that you see here, is US dollars. There's no due date here. The supplier name, the restaurant, is this one. And that's it. So this is what we call a financial document, is an invoice plus the others plus the line items. And this is exactly the JSON that you will get back if you use the extract at docdigitizer.com. One question that I have that make us a lot is this kind of invoices where you have multi-page and then you have tables with a lot of data. So let's check this one and see how it went. Okay, let's close this. Okay, so as you see here, the data is gathered from all the pages of the invoice. So part of the data is gathered in the first page, like the bill to, send to, ship to, purchase order, order name, all those kinds of information. And then you have the breakdown into line by line. And in this case, you have, as you see here, a lot of lines because the quantity of the information is very dense. And you have here a lot of information and that the VAT breakdown. So yes, we extract data from a multi-page invoice with tables that can roll out to multiple pages. That is something that we do, and the information that we get is always verified, trusted data that you can streamline directly to your RP. Okay. Finally, I left. I'm using now the invoice that I submitted before. So this one, when we started this demo, and this one is as you can imagine, the most difficult one, even for us as a human. Okay, so what I would like to show to you, first of all, is that you have here on the JSON the created and review date. Okay, which means that it's very clear to you how much time it took to get the results. And in this case, as you see here, it took 2 minutes. Okay, and once again, this is not synchronous, but it's very quick. Okay, and you see here that you have cafe americano, red velvet, cake, korma samosa, Vopi fizz with the numbers here. Let me the 60, the chicken pizza, okay, and then the Baristic Coffee Company, okay, and finally the total amount of this invoice and also the date. The date is handwritten here. So yes, we extracted all of this information, although it's handwritten. Okay, and this concludes the demo. And let's get some space to for your questions. Claudia, you want to jump in?
Hi, João. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes, perfectly.
Perfect. So, thank you so much for all your important questions. The first one, João, from Nunes. Is it possible to have a free API key to test some documents?
No, you can test with extract at docdigitizer.com, but all the testing, then you can buy a subscription. It starts at €9 per month. So you just buy a subscription and you will get the API key. But the free testing is all only done on the extract at docdigitizer.com.
Okay, perfect. Second one from Ava. How can I set up a new document on my subscription?
It's very simple. You will have access to an account manager and a back office, and you will be able to do that by just adding new documents and the data field of each document. So it doesn't require you to get samples. It doesn't require you to do any training or any code. It's just a matter of setting up the new document type on your subscription.
Okay, perfect. Next one from Jose. Can you transfer the structured results data into a database or a CRM autonomously?
The answer is you can using our API. We don't do integrations, but we have a wide range of integration partners that work with us to provide those kinds of services. So we work with RPA implementers, we work with software companies, and we tend to recommend partners that will do this customization to you. We only supply the API as I showed to you.
Perfect. Next one from Lucas. What type of rejections is it possible for the API to return?
Okay, we only reject documents under two cases. The first case is if you submit a document that is not part of your subscription. Let's say that you have a subscription to handle invoices and you submit an ID card. Okay, so although we handle ID cards are not part of your subscription. So in this case, they will be rejected. Okay, and once again, it's a matter of if ID cards are relevant for you, it's a matter of activating those on your subscription. The second case is, as you saw, when the document is completely unreadable, meaning that two, three people, four people looking at the same document, they will not be able to read it. And in those cases, we will reject the document. Despite that, we will always provide back the structure and verified data.
Okay, two more questions for today's session. From Henry. In how many times does the API return the data?
It's set by you. So as you saw here, we are able to work under a few minutes, or if you want to have, if for example, if your process is not time sensitive and you want a lower price, you can ask us 8 hours. So depends on the use case, depends on your requirements. But as you saw here, we are talking about minutes, a couple of minutes, if needed.
Okay, last one from today from Bruno. Does the price depend on the number of pages and written documents or other variables?
No, there are only two variables to take in consideration. The first one is the amount of the documents you process per month, documents, not pages, and the second one is the response time that you want. So there are only two variables. This means in practice that if you have an invoice with 100 pages, you will not be charged based on that. You will only be charged based on the document. Okay.
Okay, João. So I guess we reached the end. Thank you so much for all your great questions. It was a pleasure once again, João. Thank you.
Thanks. And before we leave, let me just invite you to join us in the next session. You will receive the playback of this session. If you go to the YouTube, you will have the access to the last sessions. And join us on the next session. Bring questions. And also drop us a line if you want to do a discovery call or if you want to suggest topic for these sessions. As you saw here, based on your feedback that you wanted something beyond invoices, we already brought several different documents. So we always like to take your feedback in consideration when we are designing these sessions. So thank you very much again for being here, and I hope to see you next week on the next session. Thank you very much to you all, and see you next week.